Hi there, my name's Elizabeth and I like to sew smart, and today's project is a reindeer Christmas paper towel holder for your kitchen. Now for this project you will need some scrap fabric, some background fabric, a piece of lightweight wadding, a piece of the background fabric to make the sleeve for the hanger on the back. This is a piece of wooden doweling which will hold your kitchen roll. You will need some binding, some black tape or ribbon or something to hold the piece of doweling on, and all the pattern pieces, I might add, are actually in the pattern which is available in my Etsy shop. So all the templates are there, you don't need anything else, you can follow all of those, and you will need just a little bit of hobby fill or toy fill, because we're going to start by making up the legs. The legs will go underneath the applique face with the hoof on the bottom, and then the towel holder will go through the loop will go around the towel holder at the bottom. So we start with the legs, and that's what you need the toy filling for, because you're going to lightly pad them when you've sewn the hooves on to the actual leg piece, and we're going to put the tape on the bottom, and we're going to start with that. So starting with the leg section, I've pinned the hoof piece, the black piece, on the bottom, and I'm going to sew each one a 1/4 inch seam all the way across and just press them down. To make my tape, which is going to go in here before I join these together, because I pressed these nice to the dark side, all I did was took a spare piece of binding fabric, 2.5 inches wide of course that is, and I've just pressed into the center on both sides, half over again, stitched down both sides. You need about 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches. So I had an 11-inch piece there for each loop, because that needs to be fairly strong. And what happens to this loop is it will go onto the top of one of your pieces, and then we will pin one other piece on. So when we actually stitch along there, the loop will be on the outside, so it will come, that's too narrow, but it will come on the bottom of the hoof. So I'm just going to pin that on and stitch those loops on now. So I've stitched that across there with the loop in, as you can see, and I've just pressed it. Now it will have to come again inside out, because the next thing is that you're going to stitch 1/4 inch right to the top here, all the way down to the bottom, and turn it inside out. And the good thing is, when you go to turn it inside out, if you have a little thing, I don't know if you have one of these, but you just can hook onto that loop to pull it inside out, which makes it a lot easier. So then once you've pulled it inside out, you'll end up with this, and it's stitched right to the top, got the nice loop on the bottom. So the next step will be to put a little bit of the toy stuffing in this leg, but leave about 3/4 inch at the top to go underneath the applique on your little hanging here. You need that absolutely flat, but the rest just a little bit, not too much, just to give it a little bit of body. And then we're going to stitch a line of stitching all the way to the top to secure the little bit of toy fill that you've got in there. My legs are now completely finished. I've stitched my line down the middle on both sides. I haven't pressed that one yet, but it will press into shape a bit better. And remember, I have used brown thread because this is brown, so I'll just go over the stitches there with a little bit of a black fabric pen to cover up the stitches, rather than keep changing the thread. Now this is the main face, but the antlers have to go underneath, so they must go on first. So position those and just iron across the top here when you've positioned your antlers. Just iron this top half. This piece has to be left open because the legs are going to go approximately 1/2 to 3/4 inch underneath each one. Now in order for them to stick, this piece here has got adhesive on this side, it will stick to the top of the leg, but underneath, if I don't put any applique adhesive under there, it won't stick. So what I've done is just put a little bit of applique adhesive with a bit of the paper on here, and I'll just take that off. So that now is sticky, and when I position it underneath there, it will stick to the bottom fabric. That piece has already got a piece on, leaving about 3/4 of an inch. Make sure that you measure outside. I have this upside down, remember, and you can obviously move it around until you get it how you want it, and just follow the picture on the pattern if you get the pattern, because that's much easier. So antlers, top of the head, and then iron this on after, when you've positioned the legs. I've ironed on the head, the face, tucking the antlers underneath. I've pressed those on as well, and I've secured the legs underneath so they're nice and stuck down, as you can see. I put the little heart on because that gives me a center point, and what I will do is I will, using a small zigzag stitch, I'll go around the antlers, then I will go around the head, the face, catching in the legs, and around the little heart. Now I don't use a stabilizer this time, I'm using the lightweight wadding, just those 2 layers. So I'm going to applique through those 2 layers, and when I've done that, I will iron on the face applique pieces and stitch around them, and that will be everything on the top complete. So I have appliqued now all my pieces on. I've just put a little highlight on the eyes, all nice and neat and tidy, and I've actually put my backing fabric right side down. I have put a tiny piece of pellon on because my background fabric is quite thin and I don't want any colour showing through at all on the back. So I've done that. What remains to happen now is I need to put on the sleeve that's going to hold the hanger on. Now I have a 5-inch piece of my backing fabric, and I'm folding that in half with the right sides together. I'm going to 1/4 inch stitch down either side, turn that inside out and press it, and then I will position it on the back here and just stitch along there using 1/8 of an inch to hold it in place before I bind. I've stitched my little sleeve on 1/8 of an inch along the top, and I have also hand stitched it down so it secures it, because all I have left to do is the binding. So before I can bind, I actually did stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Mine is quite firm because I've got the pellon in, but if you wanted you could just quilt a star on here and on that side just to secure all your layers. My next thing is I've joined 2 binding strips together and pressed it in half, and I'm now going to sew on my binding. That's the last thing I need to do, and when I've done that I'll come back and I'll show you the finished reindeer towel holder. I've put the binding on, as you can see, nice green that matches the little holly leaves, and if you have any trouble putting your binding on or dealing with binding, look at my handy hints number 1 and number 2 and you'll find all information there that you need. And if you've enjoyed making this project, it's a lovely gift for somebody for their Christmas kitchen, then I hope that you will give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And remember, visit the Etsy shop where the pattern with all the dimensions on and everything you need to make this is in. Now, I hope to see you next time because we're having another Christmas project to make.